According to evolutionary theory, the early human society lived in promiscuity. Due to the biological factors of pregnancy and childbirth, it was easier to trace biological relationship of children to their mothers than to their fathers. Hence, human organization at a later stage revolved around mothers than around fathers. From matrilineal, there evolved patrilineal when men were able to assert their superiority. This evolutionary theory from promiscuity to patrilineal via matrilineal is now discarded. Both patrilineal and matrilineal systems have developed and flourished independently. One of the few parts in the world where people rejoice when a girl is born is a unique societal structure which is found among the Khasis, a tribe of Meghalaya, a small northeastern state of India. It is one of the few areas in the world where a woman proposes marriage and where houses bear the name of a woman instead of a man. Anthropologists describe it as a matrilineal society. Descent is usually traced through either mother or father. Descent through the mother is called matrilineal or uterine descent. In a matrilineal system of descent, a man does not belong to his father's lineage and clan. He belongs to the same clan and lineage as his mother and his mother's brother. The Nayars of South India are an example. Some people, however, have systems of double descent, that is, both matrilineal and patrilineal groups are recognized, but for different purposes. For example, among the Yakothe, inheritance of immovable property is regulated through patrilineal descent and that of movable property through matrilineal descent. Characteristics of matrilineal system. Early evolutionists have attempted to demonstrate that most societies in this universe have eventually evolved from matriarchy to the present form. Today, assumptions of universal male dominance rather than universal female dominance holds the stage. Analysis of the matrilineal system operating in a variety of cultural and ecological settings and their comparison with kinship systems based on different principles of descent, inheritance and succession have contributed to a clearer understanding of certain distinctive type of social structure. Most of the anthropologists do not believe in the existence of any true matriarchy. They, however, suggest that there exist three characteristics of matriarchy, that is, descent through the mother, which is family name through mother, matrilocal residential system, that is, husband lives at the residence of wife after marriage, and inheritance of property by females. Thus, any society which follows these three norms is presently called matrilineal system. In the matrilineal system, the descent or the family name is through the mother's side and is known as matrilineal descent. This affiliates an individual with kin of both sexes related to him or her through women only. All children of a woman take the family name of their mother. As descent is through female side, only the children of the female of the family can become members of the family. The children of the male child cannot be the member of his mother's family as they cannot take the family name of their fathers. Matrilineal societies also exhibit interesting variety of residence patterns like a man residing with his wife's matrilineal kin, a wife residing with her husband's matrilineal kin or with his paternal kin, couples settling down together in a new residence, or the two living with their respective natal groups following the dual local pattern. Traditionally, it has been assumed that in those societies where married children live near or with kin, residents will tend to be patrilocal if males contribute more to the economy and matrilocal if women contribute more. Ember and Ember have also mentioned that those cross-cultural evidences also suggest that in societies where war exists amongst the neighboring communities, residence is almost matrilocal. Usually in a matrilineal system, it is the husband who lives with his wife in his in-laws' house and does not take his bride home, as is the case with other communities. After the birth of 1 or 2 children, the man frequently takes his wife to his own house. Generally, at this point of time, they form a neo-local family. However, an interesting feature of neo-local family setup is that the mother of the bride mostly gifts the house in which the couple usually settles down. Property is transmitted through the female and is held by the females alone. Whatever a male member of the family earns belongs to the family to which he belongs, and either goes to his mother or is inherited by sister and her female descendants. Matrilineal communities in India are confined to southwestern and northeastern regions only. In North India, the matrilineal social organization is found among the Garo and Khasi tribes of Meghalaya and Assam. In South India, matrilineal is found in Kerala, in parts of Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, and in the Union Territory of Lakshadweep. Among the matrilineal groups of both the Hindus and the Muslims in these regions, property is inherited by daughters from their mothers. Matrilineal descent. In a matrilineal descent system, the children trace relationship through mother. A matrilineal descent system should not be confused with matriarchal system. In matriarchy, women also hold power. In matrilineal, though descent is traced through women, power does not normally lie in their hands. Social control and power of decision making regarding land and other property is held by men. Thus, we can clearly say that in matrilineal system, women perpetuate the line of descent and children follow the social status of their mother. Through the mother, they acquire a right in property. Correspondingly, we also notice that here, the birth of a male child is not a special occasion. Matrilineal descent is linked with those economic systems which recognize women's independence and the right to organize their living arrangements themselves. In these systems, men do help in some economic activities like hunting, fighting, and trading. In some cases, large-scale changes in the economic system do not reflect corresponding changes in the traditional social organization. Often, even the change in religion has not much affected the patterns of kinship and marriage. Yet, we cannot say that the factors such as market economy, access to education, legal changes, diversification of occupational structure have brought no changes in matrilineal communities. These have definitely affected patterns of residence after marriage, rules of succession, and structure of authority in the family. Now, we first discuss the pattern of kinship organization among the matrilineal communities of Northeast India. Matrilineal descent systems, of which there are several well-known examples in southwestern and northeastern India, have their own distinctive characteristics. Empirically, you never find matrilineal systems that are an exact inverse of the patrilineal patriarchal model which we live already described and which is fairly well approximated by the patrilineal descent system of North and South, but especially North India. The reason is quite simple. Whatever the descent system, that is matrilineal, patrilineal, or indeed bilateral, authority is usually exercised by males. Only in extremely simple societies, one comes across a fair degree of mutual interdependence between males and females. Also, though rights in property might be determined by the principles of matrilineal descent, for instance, passing from mother to daughter or from mother's brother to sister's son, rather than father to son as in patrilineal societies, major property is usually controlled, if not actually owned, by males. For obvious reasons, residence arrangements are problematic in matrilineal societies. A man may not have authority over his own children who belong to his wife's descent group and who may also reside after maturity with their mother's brother. Conversely, in cases where the husband customarily resides with his wife and children, he may have difficulty managing the property in which he has an interest by virtue of descent and in exercising authority over his sister's children. In other words, there seems to be some sort of contradiction in matrilineal kingship systems brought out in the dilemma over residence between a man's role as father and his role as mother's brother. His natural love for his own children might easily come into conflict with his special jural responsibilities towards his sister's children. Nayars of Kerala, an illustration. Among the matrilineal Nayars of Kerala, formerly men resided in large and matrilineal recruited joint families called Tharawad along with their sisters' children and sisters' daughters' children. They visited their wives in other Tharawads at night. This is why the system has been popularly called the visiting husband system. Their own children resided with their mother in their mother's Tharawad. In this system, the bond between brother and sister was strongly emphasized, and the bond between husband and wife correspondingly de-emphasized. This is more so because Nayar women could legitimately have a number of visiting husbands, provided they were of correct status, that is, higher status Nayars or Nambudiri Brahmins. Also, Nayar men could have a number of wives, polygyny. In fact, the marital bond was so minimized among the Nayars that anthropologists have debated endlessly whether Nayar society laid the institution of marriage at all. Anthropologists also have cited that Nayar system disproves the proposition that the elementary of nuclear family is a universal human institution. The details of these debates need not detain us here. Indeed, the unique institutions and customs described by the anthropologists no longer exist and have not existed for generations. But the Nayar case is a useful one for illustrating the types often that seem to be coming into matrilineal systems. They had a rather unique way of coping with what anthropologists have called the matrilineal puzzle. Effectively, they ensured the unity of the matrilineal at the expense of the solidity of the marital bond between husband and wife. Other matrilineal communities. There are many other matrilineal communities in India whose kinship of organization is rather different to that of the Nayars. For instance, the Kakis of Assam are matrilineal in descent, inheritance and succession, and practice matrilocal residence. The youngest daughter is the heiress and lives in a mother's house alone with a husband and her children. The older daughter, however, may move out of the matrilineal household on marriage and make new nuclear families. Their husbands have greater independent authority than does the husband of the youngest daughter still residing matrilocally. The Garo, also of Assam, have yet another arrangement. Marriage is matrilocal for the husband of the daughter, who becomes the head of the household and its manager. A rule of preferential cross-cousin marriage ensures that a man is succeeded in this position by sister's son in an ongoing alliance relationship between the two linked lineages. Earlier, anthropologists working within an evolutionary framework had maintained that the matrilineal descent systems are the surviving traces of an earlier matriarchal or mother right stage in the development of human kinship organization, and that these would automatically give way to patriarchal and then bilateral models. There is no conclusive evidence that this has happened or is currently happening. At least in the Nayar case, it appears that the decline of Nayar Tharawad over the last century has given rise to a wide variety of residential patterns in the area, and it has become exactly like the patrilineal groups in their neighborhood. Sociologists and anthropologists continue to find matrilineal descent groups of special interest, not only because of the ramifications of the matrilineal puzzle referred to above, but also because issues concerning the status of women or gender relations have come very much to the fore in recent years. It may be, as we have stated, that males have authority and exercise control over property in both matrilineal and patrilineal societies, but most scholars working on matrilineal societies and the members of these societies themselves feel that there is nonetheless a qualitative difference in the status of women in matrilineal as against patrilineal societies. Matrilineal groups in northeast India. The matrilineal is represented in the northeast mainly by the Garo and the Khasi in the states of Meghalaya and Assam. We will now discuss in brief the broad features of the kinship organization in each of these two groups. The Garo tribals, who are found mainly in the state of Meghalaya, a matrilineage is represented by the households of daughters. These households come out of the original household consisting of a woman, her daughter and her son-in-law, which is continued by retaining one daughter within its fold. The husband, Nokma, of this daughter inherits the rights of duties of the head and manager of the household, while the daughter inherits the property. Unmarried daughters and sons live with a mother, while married daughters, except the one living in the original household setup, households near their mother's house. The married sons leave their mother's house to join their wives. Matrilineage is understood by the term Machong, which refers to an extended group of kin living in a locality. In the matter of tracing descent and passing on property, mother is the pivot around the Garo society revolves, but decision-making regarding land and other property and management of the affairs of the household have with men. As authority is exercised within the framework of a lineage, some men of the lineage have to remain in the village within its fold, while others may go and live in the families of their spouses. Thus, a Garo village generally includes some women of the core lineage or lineages together with their husbands and offspring. In addition, it has also some men who belong to these core lineage or lineages. In this way, we can clearly see that a cooperating group in the Garo village comprises a unilineally related core. So kinship relationships begin with those in the immediate family and extend to the cooperating group and lineage. Further, they extend to the village and village cluster. The Garo are divided into two prairties. A prairty is a kinship unit of the tribe. The two kinship units among the Garo are named the Marak and the Sangma respectively. There are no intermarriages between the two prairties. The dual social organization of the Garo gives them the ever-widening circles of kin relatives within each prairty. Kinship groups are involved in the process of settling disputes. Mostly members of a matrilineal defined kindred take action in these matters. The institutionalized role of the headman is the basis of the organization of local village group. After marriage, the pattern of residence is matrilocal. This means that after marriage, the son-in-law lives in his wife's parents' house. He becomes the nokrom of his father-in-law. After the death of father-in-law, a nokrom marries his wife's mother and becomes the husband of both the mother and the daughter. A man's marriage with his mother-in-law is only an economic arrangement to enable the son-in-law to succeed his father-in-law as the head of the nok. The Garo have the custom of avoidance between a mother-in-law and a son-in-law during her husband's lifetime. This is why the marriage between the two after the father-in-law's death is seen only as an economic arrangement by if a woman becomes a widow before there comes a nokrom or a son-in-law in the family, she cannot remarry without the permission of the family of a deceased husband. However, children from such a union belong to the lineage of the mother. Matrilineal joint family patterns. Next, let us discuss the matrilineal joint family patterns in India. The shrinking of the joint family system in India is frequently attributed to trends of mechanization, industrialization, increased mobility and westernization. Matrilineal patterns of the joint family in India exist apart from Kerala, also in Assam among two non-Hindu groups of highlanders, the Khasi and Garo. Most recent studies of kinship systems and behavioral patterns in this group of matrilineal middle classes in Kerala have shown that the stress on the joint family is strong. The managing mother's brother is open to criticism on the ground of partiality towards his wife and her children, to the disadvantage of his sisters, nieces and nephews. It is necessary for a normal man in a matrilineal society who has a wife and children as well as sisters with children to be loyal to both these different groups of relatives and to avoid partiality and negligence towards either of the two. This situation demands self-restraint and a goodly portion of selflessness as well. This explains the greater vulnerability of matrilineal as compared to patriarchal family systems. There are, however, also certain positive elements in this system which may counterbalance its fragility. Matriarchal society in Kerala refers to a particular form of society where women play a leading role, especially the mothers. Matriarchal society in Kerala is said to have emerged during the period of crisis when the second Chera dynasty went down in the conflict with the Cholas around 985. Before that, there is also no evidence of matriarchy during this phase. Marumakkatayam centered on the Tharwad, the Nayar family unit which consisted of all the descendants of a common ancestress in the female lane. A man's children had no rights within this Tharwad since they belonged to the wife's family. The family property was administered by the eldest male member of the Tharwad, who was called the Karnavan. He had absolute powers of decision so far as management of the estate was concerned, but he could alienate no portion of the family property without the unanimous consent of the junior members. The system was ideally suited for a warrior people. The junior male members of the Tharwad were provided for, and since the land was farmed by the members of low castes, they had nothing to do with but to fight or prepare for fighting. From early youth, they trained in the collieries. The younger generations inherit property only through their mother's side. The Nayar women had a considerable say in the affairs and enjoyed a freedom and security shared by very few women in India. Because of the Tharwad system, the Nayars did not suffer from two of the great scourges of ordinary Indian marriages: the financially crippling dowry system and the socially inducted tragedy of widowhood. The very structure of the matrilineal joint family made it difficult for the younger Nayars to occupy themselves meaningfully once their military trade had gone. With the approval of a majority of Nayar community, that the traditional systems of inheritance were changed by a series of statutes whose consequences were probably more revolutionary than those of any other legislation enacted in Kerala. The first was the Nayar Regulation of Travancore, passed as early as 1912, which allowed a man to leave half his personal estate to his sons. In the year 1925 came a further Nayar regulation, much more radical in its conception, which allowed the actual partition of any Tharwad in equal shares to all members, provided a majority voted in favour. Similar regulations in Malabar in the year 1933 and Kochi in the year 1937 followed the patterns of Travancore legislation. When the matrilineal system broke up as the result of impact of modernization as well as social reform movements, the structure of rural life collapsed in Kerala. The families which provided rural leadership were split into small units, and the division of landed estates practically destroyed the land of aristocracy. However, the most significant effect of the matrilineal system is that it has left Malayali women with an influence and independence of outlook which one will not find anywhere else in India. It had provided women a suitable position within her own family. It has prevented widowhood from becoming the sordid tragedy which it was, and to a great extent still is, in the Indian Hindu societies.